Wow.
And when are you going to admit that you changed all your positions for money? Okay. Well, what position do you still have that's in any way a so-called classic liberal, you fraud?
Dave?
Piers, it's barely worth responding to this ridiculous buffoon who's the joke of the industry. I will say this, Cenk, I haven't spoken to you in 10 years.
Even right-wingers think that you're a total fraud.
I don't think he's a fraud or a joke. I think Dave Rubin is, for what it's worth, I think Dave Rubin is one of the most influential and significant voices out there right now. And I admire his honesty about the journey he's been on, Cenk.
In today's video, Cenk Uygur absolutely destroys Dave Rubin in a heated debate for completely abandoning every principle he once claimed to have, all to stay cozy with Trump world. From flip-flopping on basic conservative values to defending outright nonsense, Rubin looked like a walking contradiction. Cenk came in with the receipts, and it got heated really fast. So, let's dive in and watch how Cenk Uygur shuts down Dave Rubin in this heated debate.
Piers, I appreciate that, but you know, the thing is, what Cenk just proved is exactly what everyone in America, and I would say all over the world, is getting over. Nobody wants what he just offered up there. Not only does no one believe it, and he had it prepackaged and ready to go, and it's complete drivel. Yes, I sold out. It's just it's so nonsensical. Again, Cenk, I'll gladly send you a signed copy of the book, and you can read all of my thoughts. And if you're anti-corruption and you're anti-war, you should be on the Trump train. But your endless hatred, the division that you sow, calling everyone racist and white supremacists, all of that stuff, it's why you're not respected. But I don't mean to get into the personal side of that. I'm talking about now something that culturally has shifted, and everyone can see the grift that you're up to, trying to sort of dance with the thing. But it's just not necessary, and I don't think that many people will buy it.
Well, Cenk, let me put to you, Cenk, something that Laura. Hang on, Cenk. Cenk, hang on. I'm gonna read you something just to see your reaction. But Laura Loomer called you out on X, as you know, and she said this: "You are the radical left, Cenk Uygur. You're a con artist and an opportunistic grifter who's gotten rich off demonizing President Trump, calling his supporters fascists and Nazis, promoting open borders, glorifying Hamas, and pushing conspiracy theories about Trump for 9 years. If you want forgiveness, get on your filthy knees and pray to Allah, because you aren't welcome on the right, and you aren't ever going to find a redemption arc no matter how hard you pander." And she goes on and on. I'm going to keep calling you out every time you try to move an inch closer to many on the right, because you're too dense and too dumb, because they're too dense and too dumb to decode your subversion, but I'm not. So look, there are lots of people on the right who think that you're on some great move here to, as she puts it, wiggle your way into the middle and over to the right, so you can then poison MAGA with your, as she puts it, subhuman political takes. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Okay, so look, this is, people like Laura Loomer and Dave Rubin are the exact problem. And I think actually somebody else on this panel was part of the solution. That's Dave Smith. And I want to come back to that in a second. So when you have people like Dave Rubin switch all of their positions, what happens is when you go to do nuance and you say, hey guys, hold on, let me explain, hold on. Yeah. Hey, go pleasure Trump again. Go pleasure Trump again.
Do you know that
he goes from Bernie to Trump and pretends. Come on, brother. Come on, brother.
I tell people what I believe in.
What do you believe in? You believed in something yesterday. You don't believe in anything today.
Yeah, what position? What position do you think I hold that I don't honestly believe?
Can I answer the question?
Yeah.
Can I answer the question? Can I answer Trump?
Yeah, what position do I say that I believe that I don't really believe?
This debate between Cenk Uygur and Dave Rubin was honestly wild, and let's be real, Dave Rubin went from supporting Bernie Sanders to defending Donald Trump. That's not a journey, that's a political U-turn on a racetrack of grift. Cenk pointed that out, and instead of responding with substance, Rubin deflected, tried to make it personal, and leaned into the same tired talking points about division and hatred, like calling out corruption or bigotry is the problem, not the corruption and bigotry itself. Meanwhile, Cenk stayed focused. Anti-corruption, anti-war, consistent messaging, all things Rubin used to care about until it stopped getting views. Bottom line, if you switch all your values to chase a fan base, don't be surprised when no one trusts you anymore.
Go ahead.
Brother, you went on Fox News with Tucker Carlson. You went on Tucker Carlson on Fox News and said gay people, that the fact that the fire department was recruiting gay people was why there was forest fires. You're a national embarrassment, okay?
Right. If anyone
you pleasure those guys
that,
for a living.
You can pull up the clip tomorrow if you want. Okay? I was talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, that you shouldn't hire people based on their genitals or their sexual orientation, and we now all know that. You have been one of the prime pushers of all of this neo-racism. I believe in meritocracy, that whether you're going to be a doctor or a firefighter or a basketball player or anything else, you should be hired on your qualifications, not your genitals or sexual orientation or skin color. Yeah. That's actually America. So you can keep trying here.
Yeah, finish your point, Piers, then I'll go to Dave Smith.
Listen, yes. When this country desperately needs to unite against the establishment on things we all agree on. So things like all the populists hate corruption. All the populists hate war. By the way, Dave doesn't. Dave will demand that we start every war for Israel and pay for all of Israel's war. So he's been establishment on that all along. So, but when you go to say, hey, can we get an agreement on things that we agree on, the left pushes back because they're so afraid. They got traumatized by the Dave Rubins in the world. They're like, oh, if you take one step, not even in their direction, if you allow the right wing to take a step in our direction, they're worried that you're going to be a fraud like Dave Rubin and change all of your positions overnight. So my friends on the left, do not get scarred by this fraud of a man. There are other people like Dave Smith, who
let me bring in Dave Smith.
Is a libertarian. Right. We disagree on other issues.
Let me bring in Dave Smith.
But we can actually unite on the things that we care about.
Right. Let me bring in Dave Smith.
In order to unite, you got to get past the frauds like Dave Rubin.
Right.
Now let's talk about that Tucker Carlson appearance. Rubin literally went on Fox and blamed diversity hiring, especially gay firefighters, for forest fires. That's not just out of touch, it's just embarrassing. And Cenk was right to call that out. When your argument is that meritocracy is being destroyed because queer people are being hired, you've already lost the plot. Being gay doesn't make someone unqualified to fight fires. Underfunding departments, climate change, and policy failures do. But MAGA folks like Rubin need someone to blame, and they always choose the most marginalized people. Rubin's whole game is pretending he's the reasonable centrist, but he's spent years pushing far-right narratives, stoking division, and platforming extremists. He left the left not because his ideas evolved, but like Cenk says, because there was more money and attention in pandering to MAGA.
Dave Smith, welcome back to Uncensored. Obviously, things have kicked off. I actually thought there might have been a coming together moment, and not the way it went, but it's gone the opposite way. Let's just take what Dave Rubin was saying and then how Cenk responded. But it seems to me that this big tent thing of Trump, I mean, it's very real. His popularity in America has never been higher than it is today. He's got an incredible mandate. The Republicans basically now are in charge of absolutely everything. You've got everyone who formally distanced themselves in 2016 racing down to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring and so on. I mean, it's a real opportunity, but it's undeniably an extraordinary coming together of people from all types of political views and so on, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just say, for the record, that I like both Dave and Cenk.
So do I. I agree.
Cenk did work in a compliment toward me, and Dave, you weren't able to do that, so I'm going to be on Cenk's side on this issue now.
Dave, you and I have some differences. I've never gone after you. I like you, absolutely.
That's true. Listen, I don't look bigger than your guys' like personal beef. I think it's what's going on here is really kind of amazing. Well, okay, but I'm just saying, if you zoom out here, I think since this last election, people are focused on this kind of realignment and the new political dynamics in America. But if you look back 8 years ago in 2016, during this election, in both major political parties, you had essentially civil wars. I mean, Donald Trump came in and took over the Republican Party against the will of the establishment and the donor class. In 2016, the RNC was floating out the idea of changing the rules, as you remember well, Piers, all the way up until the convention. They were floating out the idea of trying to steal this thing from Donald Trump. Of course, that same year, the Bernie Sanders movement had to be flat out cheated by the Democratic establishment. So it's not as if these things haven't been building for quite a long time. I think what happened in this election is that the thing that unified people around Trump was one, like Dave, like you said, me and you disagree on a lot of issues. I think a lot of people who ended up supporting Trump disagree on a lot of issues. The one thing that united all of us is that we opposed the blatant corruption of the establishment and the corporate media apparatus, which is nothing more than the mouthpiece of the regime, constantly in the business of lying to the American people in service of the regime. And this is what so this is how you're able to get someone, a liberal like Bobby Kennedy and a liberal like Tulsi Gabbard and somebody like J.D. Vance or somebody like Vivek Ramaswamy, why they can all come together is that they all oppose the corruption that permeates D.C. that has truly profoundly degraded this country over the last 25 years. And I think that there's just with that basic understanding, there's a lot that people, even with very different political views, can agree on.
Now, I don't agree with a lot of Dave Smith's takes, but he did bring a calm, grounded perspective to what was otherwise a chaotic debate between Cenk Uygur and Dave Rubin, and honestly, he made a solid point. Despite being a libertarian and leaning right himself, he managed to zoom out and talk about the bigger picture, the ongoing political realignment in the US. What Dave nailed is this: both major parties have been dealing with internal civil wars for years now. In 2016, Trump bulldozed his way through the GOP establishment, and Bernie Sanders got openly kneecapped by the DNC. That fracture really never healed, and now we're seeing unlikely alliances forming around one unifying theme. This whole debate was less about personalities and more about trust, or I guess the lack of it. Cenk called out Dave Rubin for abandoning his old beliefs for a MAGA paycheck. Dave Rubin deflected. Meanwhile, Dave Smith reminded everyone that this fight isn't about left versus right anymore, it's about people versus power. And that's probably the most honest take of this video. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out Ground News in the description down below.